Everything around you, especially your home environment, mirrors your inner self. So by changing your home, you also change the possibilities in your own life, removing the obstacles to the harmonious flow of energy in your living environment creates more harmony in your life and the space for wonderful opportunities to come to you. Isn't that a beautiful little statement or little quote? This is by a lovely lady called Karen Kingston. So I should explain a little bit about my background. 20 plus years ago now, I was the ripe old age of 21. I went to work with an interior design company, and it was a very family run business, and they were very much Sue, that was run by a couple called Sue and John. And Sue was a Feng Shui practitioner, and they were very spiritually minded. And I was introduced to all these incredible experiences through working with them. Not only did I get to look at beautiful interiors and work within beautiful interiors, but I got to look at the energetics around our home and the spaces we live in, whether it's a room you're in, whether it's a house you're in, whether it's a hotel you're in. There's just always ways of making it your space because you're in it. So this quote is by a beautiful woman called Karen Kingston, who back in the 90s was huge in terms of talking about space clearing, how to energetically clear your space. So just to really jump in, I'm actually just going to ask, we're going to just concentrate today on, this is like an overview, so we're just going to concentrate today on living room and bedroom. So I just want you all to, just for a minute, if you feel comfortable to, just to close your eyes for a minute. You might be in one of those rooms now, but I just want you to visualize your living room. Your living room can often be the hub of the home where everything's going on. How does that look to you in your mind? Are you thinking about piles of magazines in a corner? Are you thinking about slippers you tripped over earlier? Has a dog taken over in there? How does your living room appear to you now? Are you now thinking about a million things that you want to do in the room? And then let's move on to the bedroom. If you think about your bedroom, are there clothes everywhere? Is it a loved space? Is it somewhere you just go to sleep? Is it the last room in the house to be given any love? When was the last time you decorated it? How does your bedroom feel to you right now? These are two of the main rooms in the house. If you want to open your eyes, take a look at my next slide. The living room represents the side of you that you show to the outside world. So it's often the room we run around, tidy up when we know people might drop in or might come over. It's often the room that we are telling the kids off because they've left their shoes everywhere, right? So if this room represents the side of you that you show to the outside world, what does your bedroom represent? Your bedroom represents you. This can often be the last room in the house that gets any attention and any love. So just be curious about that and how that feels if this room in the house represents you. What might you like to do differently? I hope you're all going to walk away from this and look at your house in a completely different way. We'll just see. So we're going to talk about little things that we can do to enhance our living environment, to create the sanctuary, however that looks for us. But before we do that, we're going to talk about clutter. We can paper over the cracks all we want. We can light all the candles. We can have all the gorgeous blankets and throws, but it's not going to feel a restful, calming space if you're tripping over 15 piles of books every time you get off your sofa. So we all have too much stuff. There is no judgment here. Also guilty of this. We all have too much stuff. Most of us know that we actually we literally wear 20% of our wardrobe 80% of the time. So we all have too many clothes, we all have too many books. So the energy of having too much clutter around us can literally make us feel tired. We are energetic beings. We are surrounded by items that are also energy. So if you wake up first thing in the morning and you see a pile of clothes, or you know there's a pile of something in one corner, this is literally the energy that enters your field before you start the day. So how's that going to make you feel? Are you going to be up and bright and breezy and hey, let's go? Or are you going to be in a space of like, oh, I must do that pile of clothes. I must move that pile of clothes. I must put that stuff away. So let's just bring a consciousness to what is surrounding us. Whatever we are doing on the outside, we are doing on the inside. Lots of clutter around the house creates stagnation. Anybody here will know that those moments where you've really had a good old clear out, invariably something shifts. Something new comes in, you hear from someone you haven't heard from in a while. You literally create space for things to come into your life. You just got to get through the clutter first. If you're holding on to something just in case, which again, many of us do, there's a likelihood that you're living in an energy of lack. If you're holding on to something just in case you need it, you never know when you might need it, you never know when someone else might need it, you're basically saying to the universe that you can't call in something new or something to replace it or something bigger or something better. Maybe you don't trust the universe to supply what you need. Clutter is also, we can also view clutter as a kind of emotional clutter as well. So it's the phone call you don't want to make. How many of us are guilty of this? I know I need to ring the bank, probably a rubbish example in this day and age, but I know I need to ring somebody. I know I need to sort out my tax return. I know I need to do it. Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. And yet you've always got that niggle. It's always that niggle. It's just there. You can just feel it, right? It's just like, oh, still needs to do it. Oh, still needs to do it. Every time it comes up and reminds you you need to do it, it's in your energy field. It doesn't feel nice. It's energetic, emotional clutter. So I would always encourage, as much as possible, if there's a message you need to send, an email you need to send, a bill you need to pay, do it as quick as possible. Get it out, get it done. I got a a gorgeous parking ticket in London the other week. It was the most expensive bowl of porridge I'd ever bought. Parked on a double yellow line, not a double yellow line. I did park on a meter, and but I didn't realise the meter wasn't active until 10 a.m. and came back and had a ticket. And I thought I could really be annoyed at this, she says politely, or I can just pay it quickly and just keep moving. And that's what I did. Get it straight out, get it done. So to let something in, let something go. So what is clutter and what is just life? If you have a mental image of an area in your home that you know needs clearing, I bet you've all got one. It's clutter. That applies every time you open the kitchen drawer and 55 knives jump out at you. When you open the kitchen cupboard, you get hit by a can of beans. If there's too much, it's clutter. If you're moving things from left to right, if you're putting piles of stuff on the stairs that never go up the stairs, guess what? It's clutter. If the first thing you do in your spare time is clear up, you have too much clutter. If thinking about clearing up or clearing out makes you tired or feels too much, you have too much clutter. This, I think, is really important. If you have broken items that you intend to fix but never get around to doing this, they become clutter as well. They're a bit like, for me, the parking ticket, the email you need to send. If you're not going to deal with them straight away and they're just going to sit in a drawer or a cupboard taking up space, send them away. All the time you're holding onto these things, there's no space or room for anything new to come in. So fix, repair, give away, send off to the shop or throw away. And then just make sure that you're aware of creating a balance, because there are always going to be times when you're working on something, you're studying, you're on a project, and you're collating items because you need to for this particular project, for example, and keep them neatly, keep them in one place. But once you're done with the project, file them away, get rid of them. I've always had a bit of a reputation. When I worked in my last interior design practice, the boss would go on holiday and be like, yeah, if you could just tidy up while I'm away, you know, like I've got nothing better to do. And it would be like, if you can just sort out and tidy up. And he always had magazines and magazines and magazines, and there were catalogues and all sorts. And so I'd get a big bin bag and throw the lot out. That's it. If you ask me to tidy up, so I'm going to tidy up. I'm not going to sit and spend hours siphoning through everything. I'm just going to get rid. Never liked it much, but anyway, the space always felt much better once I'd done it. So, one of my favourite quotes: to start. Should have put a bit of a trigger warning here. What I would suggest is, in my experience of clearing out, and I am a big clearer. When I get to it, I'm a big clearer. When somebody asks me to do it, I hit everything with a bin bag. If so as not to drop into utter overwhelm, I would always encourage you to start small. Start with a drawer, start with a cupboard, focus on one room and just go bit by bit. I've learned from bitter experience, Aries by nature as a kid, right, I'm going to tidy up my room. Everything would come out, everything, the wardrobe, the desk, all the stuff would come out. Halfway through, because we are dealing with the energy of these things, you know, all our stuff comes up and suddenly you're like, oh, why did I start? This is awful. And then you literally put yourself off ever clearing anything again. So I promise you, you're going to have more of a result with this if you start small and you literally just go, I'm going to do that drawer, I'm going to do that cupboard, or whatever it is, so that you don't literally lose the will to live halfway through. And then when it comes to clearing out, when it comes to the items you surround yourself, I'm sure many of you have heard of Marie Kondo, very famous for a couple of books on what you surround yourself with. She's very cutthroat with her approach, but amazing. And I love the fact that she asks the question, does it spark joy? Because again, over time, we can inherit things, we get given things, we store things for our kids, we inherit things from past people, old boyfriends, yada, 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 yada. So bring a consciousness to your home. Whatever room you might be focusing on, just stand in it and take a look around and ask yourself, what do I love? What makes me smile? What makes me feel brilliant? What reminds me of really fun times? And what might do the complete opposite? Literally see people on this call now looking around the rooms. And if it makes you feel good, it's a full body yes, keep it. If it's a real like, either put it to one side and see how it feels without living with it for a bit, or pass it on, pass it to someone else, sell it, give it away. Do not hold on to items through a sense of obligation. This is often quite a hard one for people. We do get really attached to stuff as humans. We're always going to have our memories, and probably a lot of us hold on to old photographs and all of that, and that's all fine. But do you need to hold on to the Christmas card a boyfriend sent you in 1982? Really? Am I going to share this story? Yeah, I'm going to share this story. My mother, love her dearly. She'll probably watch this at some point. She has been a collector of ornaments for as long as I can remember. And they are just not my bag, never have been. And they just collect dust. And we often have a little joke, because I'm always saying to her, in the nicest possible way, Mum, when you check out, delete, that's not happening anytime soon, but I'm not taking on your ornaments. And she says, oh, but wouldn't you really like that to remember me by? And my argument is always, no, I don't need to look at a sparrow on a twig made out of clay to remember you. I'm sorry, I just don't. So, yes, I might be like, we all have our things that are really sentimental and that we absolutely love because they make us feel brilliant. But don't take on stuff out of a sense of obligation. Just don't, because it's not going to benefit you in any way, shape, or form, and you might just end up resenting it. So, as I've mentioned before, you wear 20% of your wardrobe 80% of the time. So, do you really need 25 pairs of socks? Do you need 5 pairs of socks that are going a bit threadbare? Maybe just check out what you've got and what needs auditing. And when you're shopping for clothes, maybe consider something in, something out. A hard one for most of us, I'm sure. Books. I've lived by this for a long time now. Read and recycle paperbacks, and keep hardbacks only if you love them. Actually, this image has got a lovely pile of hardbacks on the coffee table. I have a lot of hardbacks because I quite like the aesthetics of them, and I do actually like the books. But yeah, I'm a real read and pass on novels, cheesy holiday books. Read them, pass them on. Don't need to hold on to them for years. The likelihood of you ever rereading them is probably slim. And if you think you might honestly reread it, maybe keep it. But the likelihood is you probably won't. Once you've read, you've passed on. And if it feels too difficult to let things go, try this. This is a little energy trick that supposedly is an unblocker. So move around 27 things that haven't been moved around for a while. I'm not talking about your husband. So every 9 days, move around 27 things. I can tell you for free that after doing that for a bit, you're going to be like, why am I moving around this bloody ornament from Great Aunt Maud that I've had forever? And I don't even like it. But I know someone that might like it. And then just gradually start clearing out with a drawer, or just challenge yourself to throw out or give away one small thing every day. If you put one thing in a box every day to give away, by the end of the week, you've got 7 things to throw out or give away. And again, remember, whatever you're doing on the outside, you're doing on the inside. So once you've got yourself to a space where you've had a good old clear out, a good old declutter, tidied all your books up on the bookshelves, thrown out the ones that you've read once, never to be looked at again, you can actively choose to give your actual space a little bit of a clearing. You've moved all the energy around at that point, you've created space by getting rid of some items, or you've put everything in its place where it needs to go. One of the great things Marie Kondo says actually is Don't go out buying more storage to house the stuff you've got. Instead, clear out the stuff that you actually really don't need, and you'll probably find that you don't need the extra storage for it. I definitely think as humans, we all rush out to buy another cabinet for this and another cabinet for that, right? And we will end up with too much furniture. So let's work on the proviso that you've cleared your space in one room. It might just be a room that you use, like a study for you, or your living room, and you've just got rid of all the old took that you don't want. Technical term. So after you've cleared, if you want to freshen and brighten the energy of this space, I always recommend throwing the windows open. Obviously not today, but throwing the windows open, just get some air through, blast some loud music. If you have sound bowls or sound instruments, the little bells, anything like that, you can literally go around the room and just clear the space. You can set an intention for the space. I'd like this space to bring more calmness. I like this space to be relaxing. You're putting your energy back into the space. You're grounding back into the space. And there's space for you to do that now because you're not surrounded by energetic items that weren't serving you or that you weren't in love with anymore. You can also burn sage, incense, even a candle to a degree. It's all about the intention of having cleared your space and what you want to bring into that space. Then we have this nice restful interior on the right. So just to look at the two rooms I mentioned, so the living room. I loved looking for pictures for this little presentation, actually. I love this living room. It's very calm and restful, but it still feels homely. There's still some items in there without it being overly cluttered. Some other people might look at it and think it's really busy. It really is personal preference. But a reminder that your home is your safe place. It's where you go to recharge. So make it safe for you, make it feel welcoming, make it feel warming, and yeah, create the environment that you want to live in. And if you need to direct other family members along the same path, then that will be your challenge. But generally, once you shift the energy and once you make the decision for things to be a certain way, everybody else will kind of fall into that energy as well. Surround yourself with items and objects that make your heart smile. So things that you've collected while you've been on holiday, maybe, something that means something to you, just something that you love the colour of. Whatever it is, as long as it makes you feel good and makes your heart smile. Just a reminder that light is energy and attracts all living things. So it's great if you've got a room with plenty of natural light. It's great if you've got a fireplace of some description that you're able to light in the evenings, especially right now while it's miserable and winter here in the UK. If you don't have that, but you want layers of light, you can have a big tray with lots of big church candles on, and you will find that most people, when a fire is lit, people just migrate towards the fire. It just becomes this beautiful space that attracts energy, right? Who doesn't love sitting around a fire? Like I say, if you don't have the fire, you can recreate that vibe with like a lot of church candles. And it's great to have layered lighting in a space. So we've all got the overhead lighting. I've got mine on now. I feel like I'm sat on Heathrow landing strip. But we need the overhead lighting, right? Because there's going to be those moments where we lose a contact lens or something that we need to find, and we're only going to do it with the big overhead lighting. But we also want layers of light. So side lamps, candles, all of it, just layers up. And that just adds to the ambience of the home and the space. Fairy lights, another great way. They just feel nice. It feels nice and cozy to have these different layers of lighting. And then if you haven't already, you might want to introduce extra textures and layers, like in forms of like throws and cushions. I actually have a throw that is the best thing I ever bought, which is actually a heated throw. I could sell those. Also be on commission for those. But it just adds a whole other layer literally. And if you've got hard floors, then you're always going to benefit from having a rug in a living space. A rug does more than look pretty and keep you warm. It also really grounds the space. So if you've got a sofa and you've got a nice big rug that covers the whole living space underneath, it literally grounds the space. When your feet step onto that rug off the hard floor, you're like, ah, now I'm in my soft area. Now I can relax. And then colours for your space, without going into too much detail, we know there is a whole other psychology around colours. So pick colours that make you feel calm and relaxed if that's what you're wanting for your living space. You might not want that. You might want something a bit more vibrant. You might want to be putting terracotta on your walls. If you're unsure where to start with colour, a great place is always to start in nature and just take a walk and just be curious as to what colours pop out and speak to you. Would this feel nice to sit in? Would this be restful? Would this be calming? And yes, colour has a frequency and vibration. So notice what colours you resonate towards and why. And it's not going to be the same for everyone. A friend of mine's got a beautiful dark teal blue living room. And it's incredible. When the light catches it, you literally feel the vibration of a teal blue on the walls. It's amazing. But it won't be for everyone. Somebody else's idea of peace and calm will be a really nice off-white or a colour like I've used here on this image, which is a soft kind of camely terracotta colour, I guess. There's no right or wrong. There is just what feels good to you and what makes you feel however you want to feel in this room, whether you want to feel relaxed, whether you want to feel a bit more energized. Again, that will depend on the room you're doing. We're looking at living rooms here. So I would assume most people want to feel relatively chilled. And then scent in a space. So it's often really nice to have a scent that you use throughout the house because it's just that anchor. You step in your front door and you have a smell and you're like, oh, I'm home. We know the power of scent. We know how we can walk past somebody in the street and smell a perfume or an aftershave or something that whips us back down our timeline and reminds us of a teacher or an ex-lover or something. So yeah, be conscious of what you surround yourself with in terms of scent. And again, you can go for the calmer scents if you want them, you know, like lavender in a bedroom and maybe something more warming. I've got, for example, at the moment, I have an amber and orange burning, which I just love. It feels for this time of year, it feels very nurturing, very calming. And I have this in the form of the scented sticks, diffusers. I never know what the name of them are. And a candle, and then I have sometimes I burn incense, so just layers of the scent. But I would just be aware, one thing I've really become aware of recently is the manufacture of these things. Personally, I'm not big on anything you plug in because it's all very fake scent and potentially made with chemicals, not perhaps one that you want to be breathing in. I have the same consciousness around candles as well. I only buy ones that are made from soy wax or coconut wax or something, as opposed to most candles are, especially the big brand candles, made with paraffin, can be made with paraffin. And of course, we're burning that into our space. So for me, it's really important to have an awareness around where my scent comes from and how I'm using it. So, yeah. And yeah, I've already mentioned about the rug, having a good rug under your sofa just to ground the space. A few other suggestions for creating a sanctuary in your living room. Plants. This normally makes people pull a face I'm not going to do on camera, but most people are like, oh no, I just kill plants, I'm not green fingered. If you're curious about plants, start. Get a couple of plants and just do your best with them. Interestingly, if a plant cannot live in a room, it's likely that neither can a person. And you'll all know this if you've tried to put a plant in a room without much light or with very small windows. And plants dying on you indicate that you may not be looking after your own health properly. So just be aware of that as well. Doesn't have to be true, could just be. And the great thing about plants, which is why I have them everywhere, well, it takes me about a decade to water them every time, is that they are brilliant at absorbing electromagnetic stress or electromagnetic frequencies, which we are surrounded with at the moment. They are coming off our gadgets, they're coming off our laptops, our iPads, our TVs, especially smart TVs, which we all have now. So get plants into your house. Be curious about plants. Get them in, see how things fare. Peace lilies are brilliant at absorbing EMFs, really good to have next to your computer, great to have next to your, on a desk, next to your computer. And generally the vibe is not to go for plants that are spiky. Nobody ever wants to be walking past a plant in their house and get caught on the side of it. That just doesn't feel good, right? So I'd always say go overscaled and just be curious with plants, but they really do add to an environment. And then the same consciousness that I was talking about regarding surrounding yourself with items that you love. Be very conscious of the art that you surround yourself with. Again, do you love it? Does it spark joy? Is it something that makes you feel good? Art's really a very subjective thing, but I think I had a friend years ago who was really in a place of, I think the word is probably uncertainty. Didn't really know where she was going in the world at that time, sort of, between jobs and all of that sort of thing, and kept getting drawn to this photograph. And I just kept looking at this photograph, and it was literally the photograph of a lake with a jetty going out to it. And that was it. So the jetty and then the lake. And it really just spoke volumes to me about where she was at that time, because she just kind of, the symbology of the art, if you like. So I think be aware of that. Make sure that the art feels good for you. And then you may want crystals in your space. Doesn't have to be for everyone. But if you are interested in crystals, you can't go wrong with ever having a large rose quartz. You can pop it on a coffee table, you can pop it on a side table. A rose quartz is a master crystal, and it will literally just enhance the environment, enhance the energy in the space. And a tray on a table, on a coffee table, is for me, it's always a great way of holding things on the coffee table if we want to, especially if you've got kids, because you can move it out the way if you need to. But instead of having a coffee table that's just got lots of odds and whatsits on it, you can have a really nice smart tray that you buy, and you might have on it a couple of candles, you might have your crystals, a vase with flowers on it, and you've got it all in that one space, and then you've got the rest of the table free to pop down a book or, magazine, whatever you're doing, coffee. So it's just another good way of grounding things in your space. And then just in your living room, have an awareness of the atmosphere that you are consciously or unconsciously creating. And what I mean by this is how the room's being used and whether or not things are just happening on autopilot. So you may just have the TV on as background noise, and you might not realise that actually underneath that's actually really quite annoying, or that you're being by osmosis blasted by the news, 4 times an hour, and you're wondering why you're perhaps feeling a bit, unbalanced or ungrounded. So have a consciousness around your room and your space, and be like, what do I need right now in this space? I'd really like some nice calming music. That's what I'm going to put on. Fed up of listening to the TV, fed up with the news, fed up with the football or whatever else is on. And, appreciate, obviously, that might take a little bit of negotiation if you've got others in the household. But it's just always having a consciousness, and maybe being in those discussions of, listen, you've had your football on for the last hour. I'd quite like to turn the TV off now and let's play cards, or let's put some music on, or, let's just shift the energy that way. Because we are sharing spaces, right? So I guess bring the same consciousness to your living environment as you do to yourself. And if you're not doing that to yourself, start with yourself and then stretch it out into your living space. So check in with yourself, ask how you are, get into that practice. That's a whole other subject I know I've done some work on before, but then do the same with your home. How's my house feeling? Do I need to open a window? Do I need to light a candle? Would that make it feel cozier? Let's change the living room from daytime where I've been sat at my computer all day beavering away. Let's put all my work away. Let's change the lighting. Let's close the window. Let's light the fire. Let's just make our spaces conscious how we live in them. And then the bedroom. So your bedroom is a space that is literally your sanctuary. It's where we spend most of our time because of the hours we sleep. It is a room that is generally by invitation only. But I want you to remember that although it's by invitation only, it is such an important space because it is literally where you go to recharge your batteries. So if this room hasn't been looked at for a while or hasn't had any love for a while, you might go and look at it differently after being here today, which I would love. But definitely bring some consciousness to this room. Does it need a lick of paint? Does it need a new headboard? Do you need new bed linen? Have you had the same bed linen since 1985? Is there a pile of stuff next to your bed that actually, albeit you just step over it every night, it's there, it's clutter? So something that feels obvious to me but isn't obvious to a lot of people, do your very best to have a solid wall behind your bed. Never ceases to amaze me as an interior designer that I can walk into someone's bedroom and they can have a bed floating in front of a window. Now, again, personal choice, but I would just like to flag that actually it's very ungrounded to have a bed floating in front of a window. And it can literally feel, have us feeling unsafe. You feel like there's something coming in at you behind, and not to mention chilly in the winter. So if you can get your place in a bed where you can get your bed in a place where you can see the door and you can see the window, and you're not going to have any surprises coming from anywhere. I couldn't even try and have my bed near the window here because I'd literally have birds landing on my head every night or morning. And again, headboard for support if you can as well. And a bedroom is, it's often a place that is shared. So we want to encourage that energy as a shared space. So it's very good Feng Shui, however you pronounce it, to have pairs in the bedroom. So matching bedside tables, matching lamps, a pair of chairs if there's space, the art perhaps depicting couples or a couple of birds or something. So, if you do share your space with a loved one, or if you're trying to call a loved one in, create space for the loved one, maybe have an empty bedside table, one side of the bed. But just, again, bring a consciousness to that space. So it's just going to offer you a lot more. It's the energy you're giving out. Like, there's two of us sharing this space, so we're going to have, the pair. And that is similar with, I've done that bit further down. And so again, making your bed cozy and inviting, somewhere that you want to get into at the end of the night. My beautiful friend does every night what she calls her own turn down service, which I love. So she literally gets to, half an hour before bed, she goes into her room, she turns her bed down, she turns all her side lights on, she lights a candle or a diffuser or something, and just make sure the room's clear, and gives herself a turn down service. How wonderful is that? Because she's worth it, right? So why would we not do that for ourselves? So yeah, I think that's a really beautiful thing to do. And, creating a sanctuary with nice pillows and throws, and maybe airing the bed every day before you remake it. But do get into the practice of making your bed first thing every day if you can, because it is going to feel really nice. And every time you walk past your bedroom door, you're not going to go, oh, I really need to make that bed. Guess what that is? Emotional clutter. So yeah, if you can get into this practice, I was never a bed maker. I was literally a shake-in as I got into bed for years, in fact, forever, pretty much. And then probably about 15 years ago, I literally retrained myself. Guess what? It only takes 30 days to create a new habit. So highly recommend making your bed first thing. Again, keep the room as clutter-free as possible. Ideally, in our bedrooms, we literally only have bedsides and lights, and that's it. We'd have clothes elsewhere. We'd have the space as clear as possible for the best sleep. It's not always the way it is, so just be conscious of what is around you. Have you got a ton of stuff under the bed that you're just storing there for Great Aunt Maud? You know, just be aware of what is around you and whether it needs to be there. And then bedroom, obviously, not obviously, but one might think there might be some romantic vibes happening in the bedroom, in which case, you know, you might want to do a nod to bringing in a little bit of red or pink, or, you know, something that, even a bit of green actually, is, you know, brings in a little bit of those romance colours. Paint a wall in a really beautiful soft pink, if you can get it past your other half. Maybe just the odd cushion, but yeah, just being conscious around that, and the same with your artwork. And again, the art, be conscious of the art you place here. No war scenes, for example. And ideally, if you're sharing a bedroom with your other half, no photographs of the kids in the bedroom, because that is the sanctuary that the pair of you share together. So it's your adult space together. The kids can be all down the hallway or, you know, wherever, but not in the bedroom. Or at least be curious about not having them in the bedroom. Ideally, a phone-free zone with a battery-operated alarm clock, so we're not getting bombarded by those electromagnetic frequencies that our phones love to give off. This one is definitely a hard one for most of us to muster, and we've always got a gazillion excuses why we need to have our phone next to our bed. But again, just want to be curious about. Relaxing scents in this room, so lavender is the most obvious one, obviously, but you can play around with others that might work for you in this room. And another absolute no-no for me is shelves or artwork over the bed. This, to me, again, it just feels very intuitive. I personally wouldn't feel comfortable, I've never felt comfortable with something on the wall behind me. I just have that very human feeling that if it falls down in the night, it's going to plonk me in the face. No, thank you. So that's definitely for me a real no-no, but it might work for you. But I would definitely suggest not having shelves or art over the bed. And ideally, you wouldn't sleep under beams either, because these just give off an energetic, an energy, I'm guessing. So if you've got a beam over your head, it's likely to affect you bodily, but sometimes these things can't be helped. So, yeah. And then just a little general note, because I thought this was quite fun. You've probably all been aware of symbols and signs in your everyday life, and looking at symbols and signs and seeing what you're calling in on a daily. So be really conscious of how you have these in the home. So be aware of like what you have on the wall and fridge magnets and things like that, stuff that you probably don't even notice anymore. But if you viewed your home through the eyes of a 5-year-old, what would the 5-year-old do if they read a magnet that said kick the cook? I reckon that cook's going to get a bit of a kick in the leg. So, you know, how different would it be if there was a magnet that said kiss the cook, as an example? Just a silly little thing, but I think actually kind of makes a lot of sense. And again, what's your art reflecting? How does it feel? Is it your choice? And is it yours? The symbology of art, you know, how it might feel. And if somebody else has chosen it, yada, yada, yada. And again, what photos do you display? Are they of kids as babies, even though they're now married? Just try and be as much as you can in the energy of the times. So in the energy of now, because that's kind of honouring their growth and honouring where they are. And it's showing that you are with them in this now moment and not perhaps living in a story of the past or wanting them to stay as they were. So yeah, just be really conscious of the symbols, signs and art that you have around your home. Yeah, and I can guarantee that as you start curiously looking at your home through different eyes, you'll start to notice all sorts of interesting things. So yeah, travel curiously around your home, take things one step at a time, and see what differences occur by clearing out that drawer, clearing out that room.